Charlie Kirk was shot and shortly after passed away on September 10th. This happened during his event at Utah Valley University. Obviously, this shouldn't happen to anyone. Even though Kirk wasn't a part of Trump's cabinet, because of how connected he was to the Trump administration, a lot of people have been calling this a politically motivated attack. Regardless of whether Kirk was alive or not, he was responsible for a lot of very hateful, vilifying rhetoric. Kirk literally advocated for gun violence with the rhetoric he used. He called gun deaths a prudent deal in order to protect Second Amendment rights. The irony here is unfortunately very obvious. Kirk very clearly advocated for the use of guns in a violent, deadly manner, and the end result is Kirk himself getting shot. I would be curious to hear if he can still rationalize these deaths now that he's counted among the victims. I have a very simple equation when I talk about gun violence. Gun minus gun equals 0 guns. It's the easiest way to explain that restricting guns will result in less gun violence. Kirk also had a needlessly aggressive stance on empathy. He said he hates the word empathy and prefers sympathy. This is a pretty silly, convoluted, and semantics-based argument that really doesn't matter at all. In context of the recent situation, he would want us to feel bad for him, but based on the definition of sympathy, we shouldn't feel bad for his family, the people at the event that were affected, or the police that were working hours and hours of overtime to find the perpetrator. Feeling for any of those people would result in an empathetic response, something that Kirk clearly didn't want. There's also an argument here where you can't feel bad for someone if you don't fully understand the emotions that they're going through. Basically, you can't be sympathetic without being empathetic. Regardless, this is pure semantics and it very genuinely doesn't matter at all. It's just a very silly take that Kirk had for no reason other than to vilify liberals. Kirk also had a history of being racist. Generally, these statements were made based on black people's qualifications for working jobs. Kirk actually started Turning Point based off of a reaction he had to what he perceived to be affirmative action being used against him. Kirk had consistently said he had lost his slot at West Point Military Academy because a black woman had taken his spot. There's never been any evidence to prove that this is accurate in any way. Affirmative action was obviously created to stop racism from being a factor in college admissions. Harvard also has a whole article about affirmative action and showing the wide benefits it has outside of these admission processes. If Kirk was really a standout student and was clearly better fit for the college, he would have gotten in. He just wasn't good enough, and instead of accepting that, he chose to be racist instead. Kirk was also anti-abortion. He's quoted saying abortions in America are 8 times worse than the Holocaust. Obviously, this is an insane take. Outside of comparing a medical procedure to a genocide, there are many potential complications that can rationalize abortions. There's involuntary insemination, medical issues with their pregnancies, even not being able to afford a child. And outside of all that, it's okay to just not want a child and to choose to get an abortion. A big talking point for conservatives is having abortions in the 2nd or 3rd trimester. 93% of abortions are given in the 1st trimester. None of what I'm saying is trying to defend the assassination, but it's important to understand why people act in this way. Not to say every shooter has a logical reason for committing these acts, but generally there's a rationale. Text messages have been released from the alleged shooter saying he was sick of hearing Kirk's hateful rhetoric. Many conservatives also immediately blame the left for this attack with no evidence. The evidence suggests that the shooter was actually a conservative. His family was fully Republican, and photos have been released of the shooter with guns as a child. Gun control prevents this from happening. This freak grew up with weapons in his hands and he decided to use them. So in summary, gun control is important, the shooter's actions can't be justified, and most importantly, while it's unfortunate that Kirk died, he was not a good person. He doesn't want your empathy, he doesn't deserve your respect, and he died showing how selfish and despicable his beliefs were.